Hi, my name is Chris Borgmeyer from Portland State University, and this is the second in a series of videos focused on training the content for Tier 2 check-in, check-out intervention, also known as the Behavior Education Program. So I'm going to go to the slides right now. Alright, so continuing with this training, you can find the materials for this training at the website www.sw-pbis.com. So go to that site and then you can just click on the Tier 2 button. So let's take a quick look here. So here is the website, the homepage for www.sw-pbis.com. And then if I click on Tier 2 here, you'll see Training 1, the options here for Training 1, Introduction to Tier 2 and Check-in, Check-out. And all the materials, the PowerPoint slides, there's some example handout materials here, some data system information, some video examples that we'll be watching as part of the training, and then additional forms and examples as well as the videos for training down here at the bottom. So there's all kinds of resources there for you to use related to this training. Alright, so today we're going to focus on really the logistics of developing and implementing the check-in, check-out system. And so in the previous presentation we talked about some of the coordination and the personnel and the readiness and making sure that you have the prerequisites in place. Now we're going to assume that you've addressed those things and you can move on to the logistics. So the first thing we'll do is look at developing a point card. And so as you start thinking about your program and what you want the program to be, again, try to make it match your context. So we are totally fine with you doing away very quickly with the terms check-in, check-out, and making it your own. And so we want you to, stick with the features, the research-based features of check-in, check-out, but you are more than welcome to make the program, give it your own name, and so on. And so here are just some examples of school names that other schools have given to check-in, check-out. The Sunshine Club, the Hawk Report, HUG, Hello, Update, Goodbye is what HUG stands for. Some schools have called it Check-in Connect. And then more formally, it's oftentimes referred to as check-in, check-out, or the Behavior Education Program is how you'll find it in some of the books that have been written about it. So make it your own. Use your mascot, use your motto, use your school name. Make it catchy, make it kind of exciting and fun for the kids and for the adults. So I know in my kids' school, we call it the Owls Club. It's kind of affiliated with the mascot, the wise old owl, and so on. And so we, again, have made it fit the school context and culture a little bit. So point card guidelines. So for basic check-in, check-out, we strongly recommend starting with just one card for the program. So using a common card across all students who are going to be utilizing the program. We will talk later on about more advanced applications of check-in, check-out when we start to address students who aren't responding or kind of borderline responding, in which we may vary the card. But for simplicity's sake, at the basic level, we're going to start with just one common kind of generic point card. And remember, Tier 2 is all about efficiency, and for most of our students, we want to start by using the basic check-in, check-out card where we're not spending a lot of extra minutes individualizing to the individual student. So we want to keep it simple, and we're going to build the card around the school-wide rules. So the big goal here is that we can fade the program back to just the general school-wide rules, and so the school-wide rules will be the centerpiece of the point card that we'll be using. And as much as possible, use a common schedule across students throughout the day. So again, we're not tailoring cards for all the different students in the building. So other things to consider, the cards should be really quick and easy for staff to complete, and cards should be small and kind of inconspicuous, so that they're easy for students to carry around and not necessarily something that something they can keep more private if they so choose. So this is an example of the Owls Club, card that we use at my kids' school. Wisdom Seekers is the overall program name for our Tier 1 PBIS, and Owls Club is more the Tier 2 implementation. And so you can see here along the left-hand column, the goals are simply be kind, be safe, be responsible, which are the school-wide rules for Wisdom Seekers. And then we've got, it's a K through 4 school right now, and so you can see the day is just sort of broken up into 5 segments: morning, PE, music, reading, math, and afternoon, as opportunities for which the students will get feedback. So keep it real simple. Student name, the date. Student can earn 2 bonus points for checking in, 2 bonus points for checking out, and then what's the goal that the student is striving for each day. And that's kind of the basics. We actually like to keep it pretty streamlined and not have a lot of extra space for writing, because unfortunately the tendency is oftentimes for staff and teachers to write negative comments rather than more positive comments, and so we've found that it can be advantageous just to simply not have extra spaces for writing on it. So here's another card. This is from the Hello Update Goodbye, the hug card. And so you can look a lot of the same common features here. It does have a parent signature and parents comments area. So sometimes we encourage sending the card home. There's also pros and cons to that. Some of our, as we'll talk about a little bit later, some of our schools do not send the whole card home. They'll send kind of just a summary sheet home, because parents may start to perseverate on where the student didn't do well, rather than the fact that maybe overall they did earn all their points and they should be getting the incentive. So that's one thing to consider as you think about putting together your program. And you can see for an elementary schedule, oftentimes these routines are more generic because you do have more variability across different classrooms throughout the day. So this is Gordon Russell Middle School, their point card. And again, you can see this is a middle school. And so middle schools, sometimes it's a little bit easier because they're on like a block system. So first period, second period, and so on. The school-wide rules, you can see respect others and property, make safe and responsible choices, strive for success. Those align with their school-wide rules. They're not individualized. And you can see again the points down below and so on. So here's an example of, on the bottom here, I think this card is too complicated. It's got, and it's a little bit specific. It doesn't look like the rules on the bottom card here are the school-wide rules. They're more focused, more specific, maybe more individualized to the student need. So as this might work as a point card for a student that needs more intensive, more individualized focus and support. But for a generic Tier 2 basic check-in, check-out point card, we actually would encourage you just to go with the school-wide rules. It also has an awful lot of different routines throughout the day. And the 4-point system is going to make math pretty challenging for kids to figure out. And if you're going to go with a data system that we recommend, the check-in, check-out Swiss data system, you actually have to use a 0-1-2 system within that data system. So we actually encourage just a 0-1-2 data tracking form, or as you saw in the previous cards, the smiley, grimace, frowny face type of thing, which corresponds to 2-1-0. So here, just another example of a point card. So you're probably getting the idea now. This one does have a place for teacher initials down at the bottom. And this looks like a middle school card, which is they're on a block schedule with alternating days. And so you can just see how they've set that up. This is the example of the home update or the home report card. So rather than sending the whole card home, we keep the card to have the record right at the school. And we send this card home. And again, like I said before, it can prevent the parents from focusing or perseverating a little bit on one bad period, rather than kind of appreciating just the fact that the student earned their points for the whole day and that they should be getting their incentive or their reward at home. So it's very important that we also train the parents that there should not be any punishment associated with this, just the fact that maybe the students don't earn the incentive. But if they start punishing the student, it can be a serious deterrent from the student participating in the program. And maybe the students will just quit bringing the point card home on their own, but it also can be a deterrent to their participation in the school setting, which we don't want to see happen. So we have to prepare the parents to be successful participants in this as well. And in some occasions, if doesn't seem like it's possible, the school may opt not to send the point cards home to the parents if they do seem to be undermining the program a little bit by using punishment or some other means. The other thing is we talk to the parents about don't make promises you can't keep, and so it's pretty demoralizing for students um, if they're promising things and the student isn't getting those once they spend all that work and earn their rewards. Another example of a home report. And so at this time, I would encourage the teams to take some examples, and on the web page you can see that there are a number of examples of point cards available. And so here down on the page here you can see the point cards that are available that people could use as a template for starting to build their own point card, or you may also have an example of your point card that you're currently using, and maybe you need to revise it a little bit based on the feedback that we've just provided. But here's where I would give the teams a chance to start working on developing their point card, their daily point card, their progress report card, and if they want to use a home report card instead of sending the card home, they can also do that. And so remember, one of the things that we want to see is we want to see development of a handbook for check-in, check-out. And so again, you can look at some of the examples of handbooks for check-in, check-out. We've provided here the check-in, check-out examples handbook, but even the Owls Club Tier 2 handbook is a kind of a more coherent example of a handbook, which I can download here. And we can open up and you can take a look. But here's some additional examples, and we encourage you right from the beginning to start looking through the handbook, and you can use this as a template for building your own handbook. So you can see the point card there, the home report card, and so on. But again, all the materials are available in Word format on this on the previous web page here to sw-pbis.com. All right, so teams, go to work, start developing your cards. And here, if you want to take part in that, you can pause until you're ready to move on to the next section. But for sake of keeping the video moving, we are going to move right on to the next section now. So the next thing to think about is check-in and check-out planning logistics. Before jumping into this, one thing I would do is just, if I was training a group of folks, I would go back to the group and ask them if they have any questions or concerns or comments or some examples to share with others who are participating in the training. So now we'll move on to check-in and check-out. And so you can remember the check-in, check-out cycle, which we presented earlier. What we're going to be talking about here is that morning check-in and what should happen. So here you can see during the morning check-in, we really want to kind of do a status check with the students, see how they're doing. Did they have a rough morning? Are they feeling okay? Is there anything that would predict that they're going to have a rough time transitioning into school this morning or have a tough day? And if there's anything we can do to kind of preempt those challenges, we want to try and accomplish that. We could review the home card if they brought their card back from home. We'll provide them their new point card, their daily progress report for the day, and do a quick reteaching of the rules and reminding of the rules, especially if there's anything they missed their points on yesterday. And then just kind of a positive greeting and thank them for coming in. Sometimes at morning check-in there will be a little snack available for the students as a little added encouragement for them to come and do the check-in, and also if, to try to prevent them from being hungry as they go into the classroom. So that's the morning check-in. The teacher checks. Now the student carries their card, and they're gonna first thing they do when they come into the classroom, they're gonna hopefully have a positive interaction with each of the teachers during each of those periods, and they might give the teacher the card. Oftentimes we want them just to kind of remind the teacher, and the student might keep the card with them as sort of a prompt for them. The teacher might do a quick review of the rules and expectations and hopes with the student for the day. And then at the end of the period, the end of the time frame, the period on the point card, the students has the responsibility to go up and approach the teacher and get them to score their daily progress report. And student and the teacher will hopefully be providing praise or providing a little bit of quick, genuine feedback around what the student could have done differently. And hopefully keep it positive and send them off to be successful in their next period. All right, so during check-in, sometimes it's handy to have a little check-in checklist available for our specialists, our check-in, check-out specialists who will be checking in with the student in the morning. So here's just, might have this in your check-in, check-out handbook, but student name, what students will be checking in with, and then just kind of checking off, making sure we're covering. Did we have a good positive greeting? Did we see how the student was doing? Are they bringing in any concerns, or did they have a rough morning? Are they feeling okay? We can sign their form if they brought a form back, so we can sign their check-in, check-out sheet. Quick review of the expectations, and then maybe they get a treat of some kind for coming and checking in, or maybe they even get a Tiger Paw ticket or an acknowledgement ticket. And we also want to check to see that they have their materials to be ready for school: pencil, notebook. Do they have their work completed? And if they don't have these, maybe we can provide them a pencil or some paper and prep them for what they need to do to help themselves have a better day by letting the teacher know that they didn't have their work completed that day. So goal here is developing a positive relationship between the student and adult, and like we said, that little snack can be a nice bonus. Checkout. So during the checkout, again, the emphasis is really on having a strong positive relationship between the student and the adult. There shouldn't be any punishment happening if the student doesn't meet their goal. There again should be a positive interaction. So if we look at the checkout checklist, a positive greeting, a quick review of the check and connect sheet, and then we could give them the home report if we're going to have them take a home report home. But during that review, we really want to one, celebrate anything. If they had a good day, let's make sure we celebrate that. And if we see improvement, at the same time, as we're looking through the day, if there was a time of day where they struggled a little bit, we'll do a quick check with them and see what happened and what they could do differently tomorrow to improve that. But again, keeping it gentle and corrective, and also focusing again back onto the positive. If they met their goal, then we should give them their points that they earned, or the incentive that they earned, if that applies. And then just a brief farewell. Sometimes we'll enter the data into Swiss, and they can watch and see how their graph is looking. Other folks maybe do hand data entry, depending on what materials you're using. But that's kind of what the checkout looks like. And so next thing we'll do is we'll watch some videos and some examples. And so usually I will have folks who are participating in the training watch these videos, and we sort of reflect on what were some of the strengths and some of the concerns with some of the check-in, the checkout examples, and maybe even staff, when staff are interacting with the students, teachers doing the midday check-ins and checkouts, what that should look like. And some of the videos can be really helpful for training staff on what that should exactly look like. So let's start by watching a couple of these videos, and if the quality is not very good, you can always go and kind of pause this and watch the videos from right off the website. So we will click on this first one here. We'll see how the sound quality is.
How's it going, Nick? Yeah. Still feeling good this morning? Okay. Yesterday, 44 out of 48. Great percentage. You did a phenomenal job. And I'm going to give you this for today. Remembering our 3 R's, you want to make sure that you're using appropriate language, and being respectful. Responsibility, you want to make sure you bring all your materials that you have for class, and then following directions from the staff the first time they're given. Now, do you have the materials that you need for school here?
Yeah.
You do? In your locker?
Mm-hmm.
You got your math book?
I never took my stuff home yesterday because I didn't have anything to do.
So you didn't have anything to do, so everything's here. You have your SSR materials?
Yeah, I got 4 books in my locker.
Okay, that's what I thought. You've had all that stuff all year. Do you need a pencil?
Now that I think of it, yeah.
Yeah, you can get you a pencil. Besides that, is there anything you need? Your agendas in your locker? So you can bring that. All right, man.
I didn't get breakfast this morning.
Okay. You sneak in there, but there's still time.
All right.
They'll still let you in there, man. Hey, and then see the office when you get done with breakfast. Hop over to the office and get a pass.
All right.
All right? Have a good day, man.
You too.
So So now I would usually kind of pause the video and have the training participants reflect on the things that they saw and things that they liked and then anything that they noticed. And there you can see the check-in, check-out specialist does a really nice job of making sure the student is ready for the day, has his pencils, getting his breakfast. So if the student does forget something, he's stepping right in and trying to be a support, and also keeping things real positive throughout the interaction. So the next video here is an interaction between the student when he's checking in with his teacher, Mr. Van, after his first class.
Stuff, relationships, once again, yelling at people. But, you know, when you have 3 weeks in a row, you're always going to have one off day. Mr. Van still likes Nick. How many weeks in a row did you have that good all twos?
I think since I got it, yeah.
Well, we're all proud of you.
So I really like that example where it's genuine, it's positive. Student has a tough day, but they bring it back to, hey, how many good straight days have you had? And I think a nice interaction, a nice style. And again, you can see the personal style with the teacher, and you can see kind of a relationship developing there. So, so now we'll watch another check-in with a different student.
How's it going here, man? Good day yesterday? Almost 100%? Dynamite, man. Where's all your stuff at?
I got it.
You get a good grade tomorrow? You didn't think we needed your books for today, one of the last couple of days of school? No big deal. Probably need a pencil then, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Okay. Sheet for today. We only got a couple more days of this, man. Remembering to be respectful, use appropriate language. Make sure you have all your materials, which today is going to be tough because you don't have any materials. So you kind of have to explain that to your teachers that, you know, you forgot it at home, didn't think you needed them. And then making sure that you're socializing in appropriate ways at appropriate times. So between classes, before and after class with kids, teachers, just not doing instruction time. All right? That makes sense? All right, man. Have a good day. Can't wait to see you at the end of the day. You too. All right, see you, man.
So there again, we see a nice check-in with the student who's not prepared with, doesn't have a lot of the materials that he needs, and the student, the specialist again sets him up to be successful. And what I really like there is he takes a little time to help the student prepare for kind of taking a little responsibility for getting their materials and letting the teachers know and anticipating that this may lead to some tougher interactions with some of the teachers because he's not prepared. All right, so the next video here, and again, one thing to just notice, I think, is that these are pretty brief little snippets. Like it's only a minute and a half with individual students during the check-in, but also covering a lot of ground in that minute and a half. All right, so this video here will be an example of what does it look like to do checkout at the end of the day.
All right, we're ready. Good? Okay, good. Did you have another good day? Yes. Like you didn't know when you look. Look at you. Rocked all week. What's a 3 on here for?
Actually, I was talking about that earlier. Mrs. Wilson, the math teacher, who used to work on math. We're going to let her know that, right?
Oh.
He got 3 2s, but add that together so he gets 6.
So he got 6.
Which
okay.
we love 6s.
All right, David. So we got 6 all the way across.
All the way to the 3rd hour, to the 4th hour. What's the 4th hour again? And
What is that number?
3. What happened to Mr. Kennedy's class today?
Oh, no, we were just taking a week long and just gave me all one.
All right. Well, were you talking during the week? Okay.
Did you play fair?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Did you play fair? Kind of. So now the truth is coming out. It's kind of hard when you play.
But the awesome news is
You made it 90%.
You had a good day.
You had a good week.
You
You had a couple rough days there, but you were so close. A couple days. One day they were 3 points off, or 3 percentage points.
And the great thing is we talked about ending on a great note and a good note. Look where you are. Last day, 9%.
I hope your brother or sister coming in is as good as you are.
Yeah, David. Thank you.
All right, so that wraps up that video with the checkout. So would give you all a chance to reflect on anything that you saw in that video. A couple things that sort of stand out are you can see he earns his incentive. It's a very positive interaction all the way through, and it looks like they're entering his data into the computer, into the data system as they're going along there with their checkout. So great positive interactions, keeping it positive even though but they do give him they do confront him about his tough period, but again in a pretty gentle, positive, corrective sort of way. All right, so there's some additional videos that you can watch to get another sense of check-in, check-out. And so I'd encourage you to see which ones you like the best out of these videos. The check-in, check-out examples from the BEP video, those are right out of a video that's sold on training how to do the behavior education program. And so that's also a really nice video to watch. And one thing I like in there is they give a good example of what a check-in with a teacher during the school day should not look like. And so you can kind of balance that with the positive example with the negative example. And so I encourage you to take a look at that. So the next thing is just I'd give the team some work time to work on some of the logistics of their check-in routine. So if you want to have a checklist like we showed you earlier, or a checkout checklist, putting those together so people have prompts around what they want the process to look like. And then again, documenting what are the features of checking in and checking out, and checking in with the teacher during the school day, so that everyone has some guidelines around what the expectations are for those scenarios. So getting that documented and putting it into your handbook is a really, really good idea. So would give the team some work time now to work on those things and think about how they're going to train their staff and train their specialists on those processes. All right, so we're going to move along, and again, if your teams want to work on this for a while, you can pause the video and come back in a little bit. But next thing we're going to look at is the referral process and student selection. And so again, thinking about who are going to be appropriate students to refer to check-in, check-out, and what are the different means through which we want to identify students for participation. So usually we will have, you can see in the upper right-hand corner, usually we'll develop a request for assistance form that teachers and staff members can fill out, and I guess even parents and possibly students could fill out if they wanted to seek or wanted a request for assistance. A lot of our schools, we strongly encourage them to use their discipline referral data to make decisions and identify students early. So a lot of our schools set up decision rules. An example of a decision rule might be when a student gets their second referral or the third referral or a second referral in a month, the team then will consider them and determine whether or not they feel like they're a good candidate for check-in, check-out, or if there are other interventions in place or so on. So screening, there are a number of different screening methods. You can do something more systematic, like the systematic screening for behavior disorders. But one of the concerns I have with a lot of the kind of external screeners is that they require time and effort from teachers and staff, and sometimes they've got to score all their students and this sort of thing. And I think a lot of times we have existing data that should allow us to make good decisions about student referral. For example, we could look at student discipline data from the previous year and identify which students we should be starting the school year off with the program in place. And then we could set up these decision rules, which, if a student gets their second referral and it's only October 15th, it's probably, that's going to kind of project out to probably 8 or 10 referrals in the course of a year. So we identify those students early, put some supports in place, and hopefully we can get them on the right track and stave off that projection for the behavior problems and discipline referrals. So, and one of the goals is that when students are identified, we can give them access to the intervention within 72 hours. And this, again, brings us back to this question of capacity. Do we have the capacity to respond quickly? Because very quickly, we might be exceeding the capacity that we have in the program. And then, the team or the check-in, check-out coordinator is going to have to use their professional judgment to determine which students that would be the best fit for the intervention or the slots that we have available, and hopefully striving towards increasing the number of slots that are available for the intervention. So screening, this might be an example of looking at last year's discipline referral data and identifying which students we want to start from the beginning of the year off with check-in, check-out. And so here you can see, we could set up a decision rule. So we might have a decision rule that says, hey, if a student got 4 or more referrals last year, we want to take a look at them as a candidate for check-in, check-out from the beginning of the school year to help get them off on the right foot. So just thinking about what are those guidelines going to be, and again, what's your capacity and what maybe needs to be your capacity for identifying and supporting students. And then after the kind of that beginning of the year, and we strongly encourage, as much as possible, helping students transition effectively into the next year and giving them a little bit of extra support rather than waiting to see whether or not they got better over the school year or over the summer. Try to just from the beginning of the year give them supports, help them get off on the right foot and put those good habits in place from the beginning. And so if you can identify those students even before the school year starts, or if they ended the year on check-in, check-out, it's probably a good thing to start the year on check-in, check-out. And then finally, those decision rules like we mentioned. So now we can start looking at this year's data, and as the year progresses, monitor really closely. If a student gets that second referral, whether at the elementary level, maybe a second minor referral, or maybe a second major referral, or one of each, in that first couple months, it's probably a good indication that we should put some supports in place for them, because that's likely to end up being 8-10 referrals by the end of the year. Middle school students, maybe it's a third major referral, but again, within your school you'll want to set guidelines, and again, if a student gets their second referral in the first month of school, let's plug them into check-in, check-out if we have the capacity. So we encourage really looking at your decision rule around a minimum number of referrals. Best candidates for check-in, check-out are going to be students who have behavior concerns across multiple settings, because the program supports kids across multiple settings. If all the students' problem behaviors are only in mathematics class, this student might be a better candidate for a math intervention rather than a check-in, check-out program. So thinking again about what's the capacity and who's going to be the best fit and the best match. If the student is dangerous, we probably want to go on to developing a more intensive behavior support plan for the student, and maybe putting in place a crisis plan to keep everybody safe. In this case, check-in, check-out the student might benefit from check-in, check-out, but at the very least you would want to pair check-in, check-out with a much more intensive behavior support plan and probably a crisis plan for the student. The other thing is we know that check-in, check-out, students who really thrive on adult attention generally respond really well to check-in, check-out. However, I want to caution you against, say, limiting kids' participation in check-in, check-out to only those kids who really respond well to adult attention, because there's so many different components and supports built into check-in, check-out that I've seen a lot of kids who aren't super crazy about adult attention who still respond very successfully to check-in, check-out. And so while we know that kids who respond to adult attention are going to be, probably the highest probability of success, we also know that a lot of students who aren't super crazy about adult attention also respond because of the structure and the incentives and all the different pieces of support that are available in check-in, check-out. So example behaviors for students who'd be good candidates might be disruptive, defiant, tardy, unprepared, refuses to work, refuses to share, out of seat, uses inappropriate language. And you can see none of these are dangerous behaviors. because if they were dangerous behaviors, we'd want to probably have a more intensive intervention in place. So don't include students in check-in, check-out who are, or at least not without a more intensive plan. If they're dangerous or violent, they're bringing weapons to school, they injure themselves or others. If they have a really high number of referrals, a student who had 25 referrals last year, we could guess that check-in, check-out may not be sufficient. They may need a more individualized, intensive intervention. And again, if the referrals are only coming from one setting, that may not be the best candidate for check-in, check-out, because we may need to just have an intervention focused in that setting. Then finally, if students really do not find adult attention positive and they're trying to avoid adult attention, we might be thinking about an alternative intervention for a student like that as well. So pick your best candidate for check-in, check-out from the three here. So take a look for a second. So who do you think? George, Richard, or John? So as we look at these, George, so I'm hoping that you're thinking George probably needs a more intensive intervention. He's engaged in dangerous behaviors. He's got 17 referrals. We should probably be jumping to an individualized behavior support plan for George with a crisis plan to keep everybody safe. Richard, what are your thoughts about Richard? So Richard looks like maybe he'd benefit more from strictly a playground intervention, since all the referrals are coming just from the playground, and check-in, check-out may not be the best fit. And then John, of course, he looks like a pretty good fit. He's got 5 referrals from a range of settings, and they're disruption, defiance, they're not a dangerous behavior. So John is probably our best candidate there. Teacher referral process, develop a system for request for assistance or referral. Then train staff on how to use the system, who they should be turning it into, what information they need to fill out, and we want to try to respond to those referrals in a timely way. So here's an example of just a process. Complete the check-in, check-out referral form, return it to somebody's mailbox, or maybe email the form to the check-in, check-out coordinator. We'll set up a brief little interview with the teacher and gather a little information. If we find that check-in, check-out is not appropriate, we can determine an alternative intervention. If it is appropriate, we'll send a letter home informing the caregiver that their student's going to start on the program. And it looks like in this school they want to receive parental permission. In some of our schools, seeing this as a Tier 2 intervention, some of our schools more just inform the parent rather than seeking permission. Here's an example of the Owls Club referral form. So here you can see behaviors of concern. You can start to determine, are these dangerous behaviors or not? And down here you can start to see, if we put a schedule there and what's the likelihood of problem behavior and we rate that, you can start seeing, is the behavior only happening in one setting or is it happening across a number of settings? So now we'd take a little break and provide some team time for the teams to work on defining what their request for assistance might be, how they're going to use data, incorporate data into this process, and setting some decision rules. We'd pause and let the teams work here. So if you want to do that, you can just hit pause on the video. Otherwise, we will just keep rolling. All right, so the initial meeting and setting up agreements and contracts in that initial meeting with the student. And so here's where we teach students the roles and responsibilities. We teach them the behaviors and the expectations that we want to see them striving towards so that they can be successful in the day-to-day operations of check-in, check-out. So, question is thinking about how do you want to accomplish this? Do you want to have a formal meeting, and what do you need before you get started? Is your school one that wants to get parental permission, or is just notifying the parents and maybe sending them a flyer going to be sufficient, about a brochure of what check-in, check-out is? Students do need to kind of agree to participate in check-in, check-out because they have a number of responsibilities. And if they aren't going to agree, well, then we might have to go to more intensive, more individualized levels of support. And we just want to make sure everybody knows what their roles and responsibilities are. So the student should know what they can expect from their parents, what we expect of the student, what they can expect from the coordinator or the check-in, check-out specialist, and the teacher and staff in the building. So here's an example of an initial meeting checklist for meeting with the student and discussing the Check and Connect program. So you can see how one school did it here. In this case, it looks like they would meet with the parents and actually the student and the parents and present the Check and Connect contract. They'd identify the targeted behaviors, they'd role play and demonstrate the behaviors and practice with the student. Tell them who their mentor is going to be, the check and check out specialist. Explain the process of checking in and checking out to the student, and then teach them how the point card works. So here's just another initial meeting checklist covering a lot of the same content. And here's an example of a trifold brochure. A number of our schools have created these trifold brochures to give to the parents or to send to the parents to inform them that their child's going to be in the intervention. And you can see here it gives a lot of the more details on the inside of the brochure about Owls Club. It shows them an example of the tracker card and things that they can do at home to support their child while they're on the Owls Club. And you can see underlined here is make sure you follow through, and we highlight the no punishers up above here. So really important points that you may want to check in. Other parent roles and responsibilities. So again, if you want to reach out to the parents and use the brochure or give them a phone call, so you can let them know that before school they can help by trying to prepare their child to be ready for school each morning. Try to reduce tough mornings. If a student is having a tough morning, it's nice if you warn the school staff and let us know so that we can prepare for it. Make sure your child has all their school materials and try to be encouraging and supportive. After school, be actively involved. Request to see the student's home report and help, take an interest and be encouraging and supportive. Learn how many points they made or what they did well that day and what their incentive was at school and some of those types of things. And you could also ask them briefly, what they could do to improve if there was a tough area or what happened there. But again, keep the focus more positive than focused on the negative. Parents can provide rewards at home, but again, emphasize don't make promises that you won't keep. Really try to be consistent, and don't make the rewards a really big deal, and don't make them, don't make them punishing along the way. So it's really nice if rewards are special time with a parent, maybe playing a game or something of that nature. And again, like we've been saying, do not use punishers if your child does not meet her or his goal. If your child, doesn't earn the 80% of the points, don't provide additional punishers. They may not earn the incentive they were working towards, that kind of special incentive or treat, but we're not going to use punishers. And just be encouraging of your child. That's too bad. We all have a tough day once in a while, but if you try hard, we know you can do better tomorrow. All right, so here's a brief example of an Owls Club contract. I, the student's name, will be working to, work with the teaching staff to keep track of my progress, work on being safe, responsible, and kind. And so we all sign off on the contract. Here's another example of a contract. And so some schools like to formalize it and write out a contract. Others don't use the contract so much. So teach the student the logistics, what are the responsibilities of each person, teach the desired behaviors, use a model lead test format where students actually get to practice, and ideally doing this in the setting in which they should be using the behavior, teach them how the point card works and rewards and criteria and so on. So now we'll turn things back over to the teams, and they can work on some of the logistics around that initial meeting if they want to have a contract in place, and how they're going to convey the information to the student and the parents around the program logistics and expectations and so on. So here again, you could pause this if you want to do some work as a team on some of this. Otherwise, you can keep rolling with the video. All right, so the the afternoon checkout, the home check. So when we do the afternoon checkout, students may earn rewards, and so it's probably good at first to be a little more regular and frequent with the rewards as we're getting the students to be invested in the program, and then after a while you can start fading back the rewards progressively. But again, we mentioned during check-in, we're hopeful that the adult positive interaction with the adult will be enough of an incentive to have the student come and participate. Many of our schools will have a little breakfast snack there for the student, so they get just kind of a, it's not based on any points or anything, it's just an encouragement for them to come, and they may get a couple of extra bonus points just for checking in. Checking out, again, our hope is that the positive adult interaction is what's going to be the primary driver bringing them to the checkout. They may get a bonus coin on their card if they do check out. They may get a piece of licorice or some kind of a snack or sticker or something just for checking out regardless of their points. And then if they did earn their points and make their goal, they could earn a reward. And so generally these rewards are kind of generic for students initially with basic check-in, check-out. However, if the students are not responding, we might have to get more individualized over time with those. But make sure the rewards are feasible and there's something that kids are, they value and they're interested in. So like I just mentioned, efficiency is the name of the game for Tier 2, so we usually will start with more generic rewards. At the elementary level, you can have trinket stickers, little privileges, free time, acknowledgement tickets, and so on. The middle school, a lot of times the incentives are a little bit more socially oriented, so sometimes they get to listen to music, have free time with a friend, get to go to a popcorn or pizza party. And again, you may get more individualized. One of the things we might change for students who are not responding is we might make changes to individualize the rewards for the student a little bit more. Some schools use trading menus where students turn in points for different types of incentives. I'm not a huge fan of this because it becomes challenging to monitor. It's one more thing to manage for the coordinator and the staff who are involved. But some schools love it and they swear by it, and so now you've got to monitor the points and monitor the trading, and the incentives need to be available, and there's just a lot of logistics. But again, some schools have been very successful using this type of model where students earn points and turn those in periodically when they get to a certain number of points. And having that continuous development of the points can be more meaningful and more motivating to some students, especially if they're having a difficult day and they already think they're going to lose their points for the whole, they're not going to earn their incentive for the day if it's based purely on a percentage. But if they know that they're building towards being able to trade points in, it might help get them back on track. So here's just an example. You can see 100 points for different things, and one of the things they did real nicely here is they tried to identify different incentives based on different interests and kind of focus. If students seek attention, if they want items, or they want to avoid something. So all right, so here we would again turn things back over, and you could work on anything related to the afternoon checkout routine, and think specifically about incentives and how that's going to work, and logistically what's going to work, and what are the materials you need to gather to be able to roll this out and get started with it. Okay, so we'll give the team some work time there, and again, if you want to do some work, just hit pause. Otherwise, we're going to go on to the data systems and tracking progress. And so, data systems, we strongly recommend using the check-in, check-out Swiss system. Data is so critical to this process, and having a system that is not going to cause you a lot of trouble, that makes data really accessible and gives you a form for reading data that's useful. Check-in, check-out Swiss is really a good program for this. We've got Excel spreadsheets, and you'll find on my webpage that there's an Excel spreadsheet there you can download and use. Me and many of my colleagues have tried to create the perfect Excel spreadsheet that we we kind of dummy proof and it can't be broken, but that seems an impossibility. So unless you have a master's degree in Excel, if you're using check-in, check-out with a pretty good number of students, it can lead to a lot of frustration if you're using that Excel spreadsheet. Whereas check-in, check-out Swiss, they fix all those bugs for you and manage those bugs for you, so you don't have to worry about it. It's error-free. Or if there's an error, you can call them about it, but that's going to be fairly rare. So pbisapps.org, if you would like to take a look at the Swiss, you can go to pbisapps.org website, and the Swiss suite down here in the lower left-hand corner, if you click on that, you can actually go to a demonstration site, and you can actually log into the demonstration site for free and play around and see what check-in, check-out Swiss is, how it works, what it would do for you, and so on. So there's the Swiss Suite button in the red box that just showed up that you want to click on. So along with data, you want to identify who's going to actually enter the data on a daily basis. And so sometimes the check-in, check-out coordinator will collect all the point cards and they might enter the data themselves. Other times they will train the check-in, check-out specialist. So during the checkout, they might actually enter the data with the student sitting right there. So we just need to make sure that the specialists, if you're using check-in, check-out Swiss, that they have they have a password that gives them privileges for data entry, and we need to provide them the training to make sure that they know how to get where they need to be to enter the data with their students. And then it is nice for the students to see their own graphs and be able to look at their progress over time. And again, if you're going to use the Excel spreadsheet, you would just need to make sure that people are trained in the Excel spreadsheet and how to use that. This is an example of the student count report, and this is the day-to-day percentage of points earned by the student, and so we use that to track student progress and guide decision making. And you can see, you can plug in support plan changes here and note if there's no school or the student is absent or data was missing and so on. And this little blue box here, ODR count, if a student does get a discipline referral, it'll also show up there as a little blue box. So these graphs are really, really handy for being able to make quick decisions about how students are responding to check-in, check-out. All right, so logistics for setting up a check-in, check-out data system. So think about what system you want to use. Again, check-in, check-out Swiss is about $300 a year just for that. If you're already using Swiss and you bundle them, it's $400 for both of the applications. You will need to identify a Swiss facilitator to help you get that set up. But again, check-in, check-out Swiss is a wonderful program, and it's much more encouraged to use check-in, check-out Swiss than it is to use the Excel template that we've got available for you. And you can use the Excel template if you got just a couple kids in your pilot year, but if you start moving towards a scale of implementation where you're going to have 10, 15 kids on the program at a time, strongly encourage you to take the leap, and it's, for $300 a year per school, it's pretty reasonable. All right, so we'll give you some time to think about. Maybe you could go in and do the demo account with check-in, check-out Swiss and see what the features are. And then the next thing to be thinking about is your all-staff orientation. So how are you going to train all staff on the check-in, check-out system? And so, again, this is one of the critical features of implementation, so that staff understand what their role is, and it creates the efficiencies. So check-in, check-out is a school-wide program because all staff should understand, what is their role and what is check-in, check-out and why do we do it. They should know these things. So as part of this training sequence, you want to be thinking about how are you going to provide this introduction of check-in, check-out to your staff, and what are the things they need to know. And so you can provide them a description of check-in, check-out, the rationale, why it's so important, why it's going to be a good fit for our school. What are your roles and responsibilities as a staff member when it comes to check-in, check-out? Maybe do some practice and have some discussion around rating the point card and what a 2 is versus a 1 or versus a 0, or a smiley face versus a frowny face. and really emphasizes the importance of being positive with students as you're checking in and checking out. This might also be where you show a couple of those videos of students actually checking in with the staff members during the day and what the expectations are for those check-in times. It's also good here to train folks on how they might refer students or fill out a request for assistance for the check-in, check-out program. So be clear that teachers understand their roles and responsibilities. So each day the student should bring them the form and their responsibilities to have a positive interaction, greet the student positively when they come into the classroom, and then on their way out have another hopefully positive interaction with the student where they score the student's point card and give them feedback around if they did have a difficult time, might discuss briefly in a constructive way things they could do differently tomorrow, and then finish with an encouraging statement for them to have, you believe they can have a better day tomorrow, and so on. The students, their responsibility is to initiate the check-in and the check-out with this teacher each day, although it's not going to hurt for the teacher to remind the student. They're supposed to be bringing the form around to the teacher. They're supposed to be striving to meet those expectations and bring the form to checkout, and then potentially to home to the parents to sign and bring it back to school the next day. So think about what is that content and how are you going to get some time during a staff meeting and talk with maybe your administrator to forge out some minutes to make sure that you can cover the necessary content for staff-wide training and orientation to check in, check out. So that would be the next thing that our teams could work on. And that gives you quite a few things to work on and piece together, but those are the kind of the biggest pieces to really development and moving towards implementation of check-in, check-out. So remember that all this we want to see in a handbook, moving towards development of a handbook so that everybody has the materials that we've documented all the different procedures and all the materials so that we can hopefully increase and improve on sustainability. All right, so I give the team some time to work here on staff-wide training. And one last thing, I think our last slide here is kind of anticipating some potential pitfalls. So fidelity. One of the things we want to do is if we ideally have a coach who's providing support to schools, there's some good fidelity checklists around Tier 2 and check-in, check-out. So there was that check-in, check-out self-assessment tool that we showed you earlier, but really making sure that the different pieces are happening with fidelity. At check-in, are we accomplishing the things we want to accomplish? Check-out, are the teacher check-ins and check-out being done with fidelity? And fidelity in each of those areas can do a lot to improve student participation because it's going to be more of a positive support-focused intervention. So some things to keep in mind are teacher commitment and enthusiasm. We may have to go back to that exploration stage and look at buy-in and help people to understand why this program is going to be a good fit and show them some of the data on student outcomes that others have had that maybe are the research support. We may have to just do some reteaching of what are the roles and responsibilities and how do we want to see those around implementation. And then maybe teachers can do a little bit of self-monitoring or something to see how they're doing with their own implementation. If the problem is the students won't carry the card, that can be a tricky one. So again, thinking about, are they, do we have rewards in place for the student to carry the card? Is the positive adult relationship going to be meaningful to the student? And sometimes if the student just is not going to carry the card, maybe we find some alternative ways. Maybe we, and this is kind of getting a little bit more individualized, moving past the basic check-in, check-out, but maybe we need to, tape it to their planner or have the teachers have cards and they fill them out without the student carrying the card around all day. So some different sort of modifications to the program if the student absolutely refuses to carry the card. But again, first thing we want to look at is fidelity and make sure that we've got good positive relationship and we're building in all the positives for implementation. And some schools are moving towards more of a computerized, maybe using a Google document or something like that to provide feedback. But the problem is then we do want the student to see the points and to see the feedback and get that regularly. So we may have to encourage the teachers to kind of initiate interactions with the student or remind the student about making sure to see the card or carry the card or come and check with the teacher before they leave to get that feedback. And if the student isn't checking in or checking out, we gotta, again, just figure out what's the reason. Is there an alternative person that we might check in or check out with? And so really try to kind of dig into what's going on there and figuring that out. And again, this is where the coach is really helpful, or the check-in, check-out coordinator is really, really important in problem solving and troubleshooting some of these issues that come up, because no intervention's perfect, and we're going to have to be monitoring and be very careful. The check-in, check-out can be a very, very effective intervention, and we want to be cautious about one thing going wrong and kind of saying, oh, the program doesn't work. We need to problem solve any interventions that we put in place and be very careful about kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. All right, so that gives you a number of things to work on related to the intervention. And I am going to sign off from there, and I will see you again shortly.